What happens when envy turns a best friend into a worst enemy? Deborah thought she had it all, luxury, love, and a perfect life, until betrayal revealed a dark secret that would change everything. Isabel knelt on the cold marble floor of the mansion she once envied, tears dripping from her eyes onto the white tiles. Her hands trembled as she tried to shield her face, but the belt came down again. Sharp, merciless, unforgiving. Desmond stood over her, his eyes empty, his voice cold as stone. "You wanted this life, didn't you?" he whispered. "Now you'll live it forever." The same mansion in GRA Phase 2 Port Harcourt that she had admired through jealous eyes, the same luxury cars parked outside, the same golden chandeliers hanging above her head. They were all hers now. But they weren't a blessing. They were her prison. She had stolen her best friend's husband. She had used dark charms to take Deborah's place. She had envied, schemed, and destroyed a bond that was supposed to last a lifetime. And now, trapped by the very spell she cast, Isabel couldn't leave. Not even if she wanted to. Not even if he killed her. But how did two girls who grew up like sisters in the bustling streets of Port Harcourt end up here? How did envy turn a friendship into a curse? And what secret was Deborah hiding behind her perfect smile that Isabel never saw coming? To understand how Isabel's jealousy destroyed two lives, we must go back to where it all began. Stay tuned as we uncover the shocking truth behind their friendship. If you are joining us for the first time, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you can enjoy more amazing stories with us. Deborah and Isabel grew up in a bustling neighborhood in Port Harcourt, where the air always smelled of fried plantain and pepper soup, where children played football in narrow streets, and where everyone knew everyone's business before the sun set. They were not sisters by blood, but by choice. Born 3 months apart in the same compound, they shared everything. One comb for two heads, one plate of jollof rice split down the middle, one mat spread under the ceiling fan on hot nights when the electric company took the light. Their mothers would sit outside having a discussion and laughing, watching the two girls run, always playing together, their laughter echoing through the compound like music. Deborah was the calm one, soft-spoken, thoughtful, always reading a novel or a gentle smile on her face. She moved through life like water, steady, patient, never in a hurry. Even as a child, she dreamed small but meaningful dreams, a peaceful home, a loving husband, and a little business she could call her own. Isabel was fire, loud, dramatic, full of dreams bigger than the streets they grew up on. She talked about mansions in GRA, about marrying a rich man, about driving the kind of cars that made people turn their heads. She hated the compound, hated fetching water from the public borehole, hated wearing the same dress twice in 1 week. She wanted more. She wanted everything. But despite their differences, they were inseparable. If Deborah was bullied at school, Isabel fought the battle for her. If Isabel failed a test, Deborah stayed up all night helping her study. If one cried, the other wiped her tears. If one laughed, the other laughed louder. Their bond was the kind people envied. Neighbors called them twins from different wombs. Their mothers said these two will grow old together. And for many years it seemed true. They attended River State University together, struggled through lectures, shared one textbook, and dreamed about the future under the same hostel ceiling. Deborah started a small catering business, Dee's Delights, cooking jollof rice and small chops for birthday parties and corporate events. Isabel worked at a boutique in the city mall, but she complained constantly about her salary, about her boss, about how life was unfair. "Why do some people have everything while we suffer?" she would say, staring at photos of wealthy women on Instagram. Deborah would smile gently and reply, "Our time will come." But Isabel didn't want to wait. She wanted her time now. And then one day, at a birthday event for the managing director of an oil servicing company, Deborah was engaged to supply catering services in Port Harcourt's business district. And everything changed. A man walked in, tall and handsome, well-dressed. His name was Desmond Pattison. And the moment he smiled at Deborah, something shifted in the air. Something neither of them could see coming in their lives. Desmond Pattison was not like the men Isabel chased. He didn't flaunt his wealth. He didn't need to. His presence spoke for itself. Calm, confident, and successful. He owned Pattison Global Logistics, a thriving company that moved goods across River State and beyond. When he walked into the event hall that afternoon, but his eyes found only one person, Deborah. He complimented her jollof rice first, then her smile, then her kindness. Before she left that evening, he asked for her number. Deborah hesitated, shy and unsure, but something about his gentleness made her say yes. Their courtship was slow and sweet. Desmond brought her flowers after long catering shifts. He waited for her outside the lecture halls during school hours, supported her business, like recommending Dee's Delights to his corporate friends for patronage. Deborah had never felt so seen, so valued, so loved. When she told Isabel about him, Isabel screamed with joy. She hugged her tightly, jumping up and down in their small hostel room. Finally, our Deborah has found love. And in those early days, Isabel truly meant it. She was happy for her friend. She had no reason to feel otherwise. But some months later, when Desmond proposed, something inside Isabel shifted. It happened at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Port Harcourt skyline. The restaurant was filled with diners seated at their tables. Desmond knelt with a silver ring that sparkled like trapped sunlight, and Deborah said yes through tears of joy. Other diners clapped and cheered. Isabel was there. She clapped, she smiled, she took pictures. But deep in her chest, something small and sharp twisted. A whisper she tried to ignore. Why her? Why not me? The wedding was grand. Held at the exotic Matus Hotel Event Center, it was the kind of ceremony people talked about for months. Deborah wore a wedding gown that looked like it was sewn by angels. Desmond stood tall beside her, his eyes full of pride. The hall glittered. The air smelled of orchids and expensive perfume. Guests whispered, "Deborah has truly been blessed." Isabel stood beside her as maid of honor, smiling for every camera. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. After the wedding, Deborah moved into Desmond's mansion in GRA Phase 2, a towering white structure with luxury cars parked in the driveway, a swimming pool in the back, and beautiful and expensive furnitures. When Isabel visited for the first time, she was completely speechless. Deborah was thrilled and gave Isabel a tour of her stunning home, laughing and filled with joy, completely unaware of the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside Isabel's heart. The walk-in closets were overflowing with beautiful designer clothes and silky fabrics. Gold jewelry was displayed like it were in a museum, sparkling under the light. There were fancy perfumes from France and America neatly arranged on the vanity, and the marble floors were so shiny that she could see her own reflection in them. It felt like everything Isabel had ever wanted was right there, in the hands of her friend, Deborah. Isabel put on a smile, telling herself she deserved the happiness she saw around her. Yet, as she walked away from the mansion that evening, she paused at the gate and looked back one last time. In a quiet voice, she murmured, "No, I deserve this, too." That moment marked the beginning of her envy. Deborah initially believed her marriage to Desmond would fulfill her dreams of a loving and blessed life. In the beginning, he treated her with kindness, opening doors, buying gifts, and calling her my queen. However, as time passed, signs of trouble emerged. Desmond began staying out late, returning home reeking of alcohol and sometimes a woman's perfume. When Deborah gently questioned him, he reacted violently, striking her in a fit of rage, but then quickly apologized with lavish gifts. This cycle of abuse, hit, apologize, gift became the norm. Deborah felt trapped in shame, unable to confide in family or friends about her bruises that contradicted the image of a blessed marriage everyone admired. She learned to conceal her pain with makeup and curated social media posts to portray happiness, fooling even her closest friend, Isabel. Isabel, increasingly envious of Deborah's life, began visiting more often, trying to win Desmond's attention with flirtation and praise. But Desmond remained indifferent, which deepened Isabel's resentment. One night, plagued by bitterness and a desire for Deborah's seemingly perfect life, Isabel resolved to seek help from Queen Mother, known for her spiritual work that could alter destinies. Despite her fear, her envy overshadowed her conscience, and by morning she was determined to act. And by morning, she had made up her mind. The road to the Queen Mother's shrine was long and dusty. Isabel sat in the back of a tricycle, her hands trembling on her lap, her heart pounding so loudly she thought the driver could hear it. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the road. Palm trees swayed in the wind like silent witnesses. She told herself she was just going to ask questions, just to see what was possible. But deep down, she knew the truth. She had already made her choice. The Queen Mother's shrine was located at the outskirts of the town, tucked away behind dense bushes and walls made of red clay. The air around it felt different, heavier, colder, as if the world itself held its breath. Isabel stepped through the narrow gate, her sandals crunching against dry leaves. Inside, the room was dim. Candles flickered on a wooden altar covered with cowrie shells, animal bones, and clay pots. The smell of burning herbs filled the air, thick and bitter. And sitting in the center of it all was Queen Mother, an elderly woman with sharp, knowing eyes and a face carved by time. She looked at Isabel for a long moment before speaking. "Why have you come?" Isabel's voice trembled. I want someone." Queen Mother's tilted her head. "Someone who belongs to another?" Isabel nodded, shame and desperation mixing in her chest. "His name is Desmond. He's married to my best friend. But I love him. I want him to leave her and love only me." Queen Mother's eyes darkened. She leaned forward, her voice low and steady. "This kind of work binds destinies, my daughter. If I do it, you must never leave him, even if he hurts you, even if he destroys you, even if he kills you. The charm cannot be undone." Isabel felt the warning like a breeze on her skin, soft, easy to ignore. Her jealousy spoke louder. "I don't care," she said quickly. "I want what she has. I deserve it more than she does." Queen Mother studied her face, searching for doubt. But Isabel's eyes burned with envy, with longing, with a hunger that had consumed her completely. The old woman sighed, almost pitying her. "I will not be blamed later. Once I throw the charm into the Bonny River, it is gone forever. Your life will be tied to his until death. Do you understand?" Isabel nodded eagerly. "I understand. Please, do it." Queen Mother rose slowly and began the ritual. She tied red and black threads together, chanting words in a language Isabel didn't recognize. She wrote Desmond's name on parchment and burned it over a candle flame. The smoke curled upward, thick and dark, filling the room with a presence Isabel could feel, but not see. Queen Mother placed the ashes into a small clay pot, added herbs, and something else Isabel couldn't identify. She sealed it with wax and wrapped it in black cloth. "This must be thrown into the Bonny River," she said. "After that, there is no turning back." Isabel's heart raced. She felt something shift in the air around her, something cold and final, like a door closing behind her. Queen Mother walked to the back of the shrine, and Isabel followed. They stood at the edge of the riverbank as the sun disappeared below the horizon. The water was dark and still, reflecting nothing. Queen Mother held the clay pot above the water and spoke one final warning. "Once this enters the river, your fate is sealed. You will have him, but you will also have everything that comes with him. The good, the bad, the violence, the pain. You cannot run. You cannot leave. You cannot break free." Isabel's breath caught in her throat. For a brief moment, doubt flickered in her mind. But then she thought of Deborah's mansion. The cars, the jewelry, the life she believed she deserved. "Do it," Isabel whispered. Queen Mother released the pot. It sank into the river without a sound, swallowed by the dark water as if it had never existed. The wind stopped. The air grew colder, and Isabel felt something wrap around her chest, invisible, tight, unbreakable. She had gotten what she wanted, but she had no idea what she had just lost. Within 3 days, everything changed. Desmond became a stranger. His eyes grew cold, distant, as if something inside him had been switched off. He stopped speaking to Deborah, stopped sleeping in their bedroom, stopped looking at her at all. He moved through the house silently, almost like a spirit, with an expressionless face and stiff, robotic movements. Deborah tried everything. She cooked his favorite meals. She asked gentle questions. She reached for his hand, but he pulled away every time. His expression twisted with disgust. "Desmond, please," she whispered one morning, tears streaming down her face. "What did I do? Talk to me." He turned to her slowly, his voice flat and emotionless. "Pack your things. Leave my house." Deborah's world was shattered. "What? No, please, we can fix this. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. I said leave." Deborah fell to her knees, begging, sobbing, but Desmond's face remained stone. He grabbed her bags, pulled her to the door, and pushed her outside. The gate slammed shut behind her. Deborah stood on the street in GRA Phase 2, her bags scattered around her feet, her heart shattered into pieces she couldn't pick up. Neighbors peeked through the curtains. Security guards looked away. She had nowhere to go but back to her mother's small house. She cried for days, too ashamed to explain, too broken to understand. A few hours later, Desmond picked up the phone to call Isabel. "Hello, Isabel, my love. Come over to my house," he said. Isabel felt an overwhelming rush of happiness. She put on her best clothes, carefully did her makeup to enhance her natural beauty, and walked into the mansion with confidence, as if she had always fit in there. But something felt wrong. The house was cold. The air was heavy. Desmond's smile was twisted, unnatural. Still, Isabel ignored the signs. She had won. She had finally taken Deborah's place. Within a week, Desmond married her in a simple ceremony at the courthouse. There were no celebrations and no friends or family present. Just the signing of papers and a ring slipped onto her finger. Isabel became Mrs. Pattison. She moved into the grand mansion she had always admired from afar. She finally slept in the beautiful bed she had longed for, and wore the stunning jewelry she had always desired. However, what she thought would bring her happiness ended up feeling more like a trap. Instead of love, she found herself in a situation that felt more like being chained down. The first time it happened was on their wedding night. Isabel asked her husband, Desmond, "Where have you been? I have been looking for you." In response, he violently smashed her phone against the wall. When she reacted in shock, he slapped her so hard that it left her dazed. "Don't ever question me," he told her coldly. There were no apologies or gestures of kindness, only more violence. The abuse escalated quickly. She was hit for speaking, for asking simple questions, even for just being in the same room. He slapped her in the living room, punched her in the kitchen, and dragged her by her hair across the beautiful marble floors she used to admire. One afternoon, he attacked her in their yard, right in front of the security guard, who stood by helplessly, too frightened to step in. Isabel knew she needed to escape, but every time she reached the gate, a sharp, crushing pain gripped her chest. Her legs buckled. Her vision blurred. The charm pulled her back like an invisible chain. She couldn't leave. She couldn't escape. She was trapped. One day, trembling and covered in bruises, Isabel made her way back to the shrine of Queen Mother. She collapsed on the floor, tears streaming down her face. "Please, take it back. I'm begging you. He's hurting me." Queen Mother gazed at her with eyes full of sorrow and understanding. "I warned you, my daughter. Once the charm is cast into the river, it cannot be reversed." Isabel screamed. She clawed at the ground. She pulled at her hair. "There must be a way. Please." Queen Mother shook her head slowly. "Unless you can retrieve the charm from the bottom of the Bonny River, you are bound to him. Forever." Isabel's world collapsed. She had stolen Deborah's life, but she had not stolen a blessing. She had stolen a curse. Isabel left Queen Mother's shrine with nothing but despair. The night air was thick and humid, pressing against her skin like a warning. Her body ached, her ribs throbbed, her face was swollen beyond recognition. But the pain inside her chest was worse, a gnawing, suffocating realization that she had destroyed herself. She had one place left to go, one person left to face. Deborah. Isabel took a tricycle to Deborah's house, her hands trembling the entire ride. The streets were familiar, the same streets they had run through as children, laughing and carefree, but now those memories felt like ghosts haunting her. When she arrived at Deborah's mother's compound, she hesitated at the gate. Shame wrapped around her throat like a noose, but she had no choice. She knocked. Deborah opened the door, and she froze when she saw Isabel. The woman standing before her was unrecognizable, bruised, bandaged, hollow-eyed, a shadow of the bold, loud girl she once knew. Isabel's voice cracked. "Deborah, please." She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her swollen face. "I'm sorry. I destroyed everything. I took your husband. I wanted your life." Her sobs grew louder, more desperate. "I did a charm. I went to Queen Mother. I forced everything with charms, and now I'm dying inside." Deborah stood frozen, her heart pounding. This was the woman who had been her sister, the woman who had betrayed her, the woman who had stolen her home, her husband, her peace, and now she was kneeling, broken and bleeding, begging for forgiveness. Isabel's voice was barely a whisper. "He beats me every day, Deborah, in front of people, like I'm nothing. I tried to run, but the charm won't let me. I'm trapped. I can't leave. I can't escape." She looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "Please, forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. But please." Deborah looked at her slowly. Her hands were calm, but her heart raced. She could have easily turned away, shut the door in Isabel's face, and let her deal with the results of her own decisions. Yet something within her, something deeper than just anger and stronger than any resentment, urged her to listen. She helped Isabel stand. She didn't hug her, but she didn't push her away either. After a long, heavy silence, Deborah spoke. "Isabel, I forgive you." Isabel's sobs intensified, relief flooding through her like water breaking a dam. But Deborah wasn't finished. "I forgive you," she repeated, her voice calm but firm. "But we can never be friends again." The words hit Isabel like a blow to the chest. Deborah's eyes were clear, resolute. "You broke something that can't be repaired. You didn't just take my husband. You destroyed trust. You destroyed us. I forgive you because I refuse to carry bitterness. But we can't be friends anymore." Isabel's legs gave way, and she slid down to the floor, crying hard against the wall. Deborah brushed her hands on her clothing and walked back inside the room. She didn't turn around or say anything else. The door shut quietly behind her, and Isabel was left standing outside, alone, realizing she had lost the one thing she truly had, the only person who had ever loved her sincerely. She stumbled back to the street, her body trembling, her heart shattered. She had no choice but to return to Desmond's mansion. The charm pulled at her chest like a chain, dragging her back to the prison she had built with her own hands. When she arrived, the front door was wide open. Music blasted from inside. Laughter echoed through the hallways. The smell of alcohol and perfume filled the air. Desmond was hosting another party. Women in short dresses danced around him. His friends smoked and drank, their voices loud and careless. When Desmond saw Isabel standing in the doorway, bruised, bandaged, broken, he didn't pause. He didn't ask where she had been. He didn't care. He simply pointed toward the kitchen, his voice cold and commanding. "Go and serve my guests." And like a prisoner, Isabel obeyed. Isabel carried trays with trembling hands. Her body ached with every step. Her face was swollen, her lips split, her arms covered in bruises that makeup could no longer hide. The guests stared. Some whispered, "Is that not Mrs. Pattison? What happened to her?" Others laughed quietly, shaking their heads. She wanted this life. Now look at her. No one helped. Isabel moved through the crowd like a ghost, pouring drinks, serving food, and cleaning up spills. Her tears fell silently onto the trays she carried, but no one noticed. Or if they did, they didn't care. Desmond sat in the center of the room, a woman on each side of him. He laughed loudly, his arm draped over one of them. He kissed another on the cheek, while his wife, his legal wife, served his guests like a maid. Isabel's hands shook as she refilled a glass of wine. The bottle slipped, glass shattered on the marble floor. The music stopped. Desmond's eyes snapped toward her, dark and cold. He rose slowly, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. The guests watched, frozen, as he walked toward Isabel. She backed away, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." The slap sent her crashing to the floor. The guests gasped, but no one moved. Desmond stood over her, his voice low and venomous. "You can't even serve properly. Useless." He kicked the broken glass toward her. "Clean it up." Isabel knelt on the floor, her hands shaking as she picked up the shards. Tears blurred her vision. The party resumed. The music played again. Laughter filled the air, and Isabel remained on her knees, invisible, broken, trapped. Later that night, after the guests had left and the house fell silent, Isabel sat alone in the kitchen. The mansion she had once admired felt like a tomb. The marble floors, the chandeliers, the luxury cars outside, they were all part of her prison now. She stared at her reflection in a broken piece of glass on the floor. She didn't recognize herself. The bold, loud, ambitious girl who once dreamed of greatness was gone. In her place was a hollow shell, a woman bound by her own envy, punished by her own choices. She had wanted Deborah's life so badly that she was willing to destroy everything to get it. But she hadn't stolen a blessing. She had stolen suffering. She had envied the gold without seeing the chains. She had coveted the crown without knowing it was made of thorns. And now she would wear it forever. Isabel closed her eyes, the weight of the charm pressing against her chest like a stone. She was no longer a wife, no longer a friend, no longer free. She was a prisoner in a mansion that glittered from the outside but bled her dry from within. And somewhere across Port Harcourt, in a small apartment, Deborah slept peacefully, free, healing, and finally at rest. Because she had learned the truth that Isabel never understood. Not every life that shines is worth living, and not every loss is a tragedy. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find peace. In Port Harcourt, Isabel was trapped in a cold mansion, enduring abuse from her husband Desmond, who flaunted his affairs. Once a woman full of ambition, she had become a cautionary tale whispered about in town. Envy had led her to this painful existence. Meanwhile, Deborah was rebuilding her life after losing her husband to Isabel's charms. Her business, Dee's Delights, thrived as she regained her confidence and found peace through therapy and family. At a birthday party, she met Shidi, a gentle teacher who brought her happiness without fear or control. One day at the market, Deborah encountered Isabel, now a shadow of her former self. Seeing the pain and shame in Isabel's eyes made Deborah sad, not for the past, but for what Isabel had become. Instead of approaching her, Deborah held her head high, understanding that true happiness cannot come from someone else's suffering. This story isn't just about two women, it reflects on our own lives. We often envy what others have without knowing their struggles. The grass is not always greener on the other side, and envy often blinds us to the truth of others' sacrifices. Isabel learned too late that blessings are not one size fits all, while Deborah embraced her own journey, celebrating others without coveting their blessings. True wealth lies not in material possessions, but in peace and a content heart, something no charm can ever steal. Thank you for watching. Until next time.